Testing, testing. There we go. Okay. Yeah.
Epperson. Present. Senator or Associate Senator Hibbard. Speaker of the Senate Hunter.
Here.
Senator Long.
That's me.
Senator Martyr. Senator May. Here. Chair Morgan. Present. Senator Mumford.
Present.
Senator Nybert. Chair Osterhout. Present. Senator Pyfrom. Associate Senator Quintana.
Here.
Associate Senator Reeves. Chair Ritter. Present. Senator Sandoval. Present. Senator Starr. Senator Shepherd.
Present.
Senator Shearer. Here. Senator Silverheart.
Present.
Associate Senator Tefera. Associate Senator Tequesta. Senator Tennyson. Associate Senator Torres Peralta. Officer Torres Doxey.
Here.
Senator Trout.
Present.
Senator Toulis. Chair Welch.
Present.
Associate Senator Williamson. Did I miss any?
This is Senator Bilodeau. I'm present as well.
We will now move into consent agenda. Is there any dissent from last week's minutes? Seeing none, we'll move into gallery input. Is there any input from the gallery? Chair Avey.
I would like to motion to move confidence business to just after judicial report.
Seconded.
There's been a motion to move confidence business after judicial reports. It has been seconded. All for moving confidence business after judicial reports, please say aye.
Aye.
All against? The ayes have it. We'll now move confidence business after judicial reports. Will the acting parliamentarian please make that change? I can do it. Let's see. That change has been reflected. We will now move into unless there's input from the gallery. Seeing none, we will now move into guest presentation. We have one guest presentation, Attica presentation. You may come down to the floor. Yes. Right here? Yeah. Thanks so much. Yeah. So you just press the button.
There you go. Thank you. My name is Derek Larkins, and this is my associate. Thank you, Maddie Mahivic. And we're here with Attica Voting. For the past 3 years, we've been working with the ACNS, formerly now known as Central IT, as a project working on cybersecurity, looking at new initiatives to better our security posture here and across campus networks. And one of the things that we're looking at bettering is our security for elections security and using new innovative technology to further enhance the capabilities of how we can handle elections. One of the ways that we found to implement this was through developing what we call now Attica Voting. And this is an online voting using a distributed ledger called Hedera Hashgraph. No need to know what exactly that means, but I believe we sent in screenshots. I'm not sure if they were able to make it.
You did not get any
Okay.
screenshots. I'm
Gotcha.
sorry.
No worries. For the most part, though, we actually have a working demo for you all to interact with. So if you wanted to pull up your phones or pull it up on your computers, it's a website. It's just csu.attica, ATTICA, voting.com/elections /C, S, U. And there you should be able to see how elections will be run in the future, hopefully for this upcoming Senate elections. And if you have any questions or any sort of feedback, we would love to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to take questions?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. So we'll open up 10 minutes for Q&A if anyone has any questions.
Just a quick point of information. What was the website again?
It is csu.attica, ATTICA, voting.com/elections with an S /C, S, U.
Thank you, I got it.
Perfect.
Are there any other questions for the presenters? Silverheart?
I am no computer man, but if you could describe a little bit in layman's terms, the security behind the system you've created.
Absolutely. So distributed ledger has a lot of complicated features to it, and a lot of it will go over even experts in computers fields heads. The main point of security that is added with our technology is the increase in transparency, being able to store these votes openly and to the public while still maintaining the confidentiality required for conducting a serious election. So we hope to be able to present the election in a more transparent way and provide anybody participating in it the ability to verify the election without having to go to the people that are running the election.
Senator Carasato?
Hi, I am Kimberly Carrasino. I am a senator for Encinco, and I was just wondering how is, and I may just be, I'm a liberal arts major, so this is all very confusing to me. How is ranked choice voting going to be implemented?
So I've been working mostly on the development of that. But essentially what we're doing is, as you guys can see now, you click on the image and it shows like the check mark that's been selected. But what it's going to show is you'll click on the image and it'll give you a drop-down menu. Depending on the number of candidates, it will have the number of selections and you'll be able to select it and it'll show in that little circle what ranked choice has been. And now we'll be able to send that information back to our server and be able to process it just like in the ways of like how ranked choice voting is processed.
Thank you.
President Dixon.
Is it all right if I ask a question from the floor here? Right. So just curious, operationally, I'd love to know more about the night out that you see in the ASCSU elections. They announced all at once. They don't give the percentages in live time. It's usually released in a report a day later. But I'm just curious, relative to that, what you all would see us doing differently is this: if nobody's reached the 50% threshold, what happens then? Is this multiple days, or is there an instant runoff? Is that instant runoff published to the whole campus? Like, just help us think through some of those details. So in the event that there was someone with 48% and then someone with 45%, if everyone gets excited because they thought that person won, and then ranked choice voting comes in and shuffles it all around, how will we ensure transparency and trust in that situation?
Absolutely. I think there's some parts within that we still have to discuss with leadership and the elections manager. As far as the transparency and what we can provide, we're able to provide as much information about the results of the election as you all are willing or wanting us to publish. We can absolutely present the full list and full tally to the public as soon as possible if that's wanted, or we can hold back information to maintain sameness, I guess, or however you see fit. So I guess the best way to answer that is we're open to discussions on however is best to present that.
Elections Manager Jenkins.
Hi, I'm just wondering if y'all would be able to walk us through just like a really brief demonstration of how all of this is going to end up working, so we can kind of see all of this in action, working through it together for those who might not have technology right at their fingertips.
Absolutely. Do we have the ability to do that?
Let's see. What would that entail directly?
Just going to the website.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, perfect.
If you'd like to enter it into the computer.
Yep, I can do that.
You can also bring that to the full screen.
So the way that it's initially, like the website is set up, is it's getting all of the information from a database. So as soon as you guys give us information, we can populate it and very easily change from different elections if that was like something that you wanted to do. But essentially what you see here first is we have this header bar and it has the title, and we'll, like, if there's a description to the election, they'll be shown there. And if there's some sort of countdown you want to be implemented to, that would also be within that green bar at the top there. But scrolling down a little bit, we have it divided into like the different like types of races. So if it's like the presidential race or vice president race, and kind of so forth. And if you kind of look here, one thing you won't notice right away is that it automatically shuffles all the cards. So no matter like if you refresh the screen or like if different people are pulling it up, all the cards are going to be in different order every time. But once you click on a card, it will select it. And as long as that's the last card you've selected, that's who your vote's going to be for. And so if you wanted to change your selection, you're able to do that just by clicking the different cards. And another thing to point out is when you click on the card, it then shows the description for that candidate. So as you click on the different candidates, it changes their description on the side of the screen there to show the like description associated with that candidate. And so once you've decided, you can continue on down, and we have all of our different sections. If it's just like a candidate card, it again will switch that description as you go down and select whoever you click on last. We've also created, like I know CSU with their student elections usually has like a t-shirt or something. So we also have cards for like if it's something like that don't need a description, and so you just select it. And once you're ready, once you've selected everything that you want to vote for, you can click submit vote, and it will ask you to confirm whether or not you want to vote for who you selected for. And once you're ready, it will bring you to a confirmation page, and this will let you know that like your vote has been submitted. And our plan is that Learn More link will have more information both about ranked choice voting, because I believe you guys would like to spread that information, but also more information about what's actually happening like on our end, and be able to have people actually check and see that their vote was accounted for. But that's just kind of like the brief outline of what it looks like before ranked choice is implemented.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the presenters? Senator Trout.
Thank you, Speaker. So this is what we want. The voting system, is this going to be for this upcoming election, or is it for next year's election?
We've been developing it with the goal for this upcoming election, and I think we're still in talks to make sure that happens.
Okay, cool. That's all. I yield my time.
Are there any other questions? Senator Sandoval.
Sorry, this is just a kind of a personal curiosity of mine. Why the name Attica?
Great question. Attica in Greece, or Greece, we found was one of the first cities that started the development of democracy, and that's kind of the whole formulation. We're still in the very early phases of this whole idea of it becoming a business, so not for certain that's what we're going to roll with, but for the time being.
Are there any other questions from the presenters? Chair Ritter?
This is just my personal curiosity. I mean, who counts the votes? I know in the past elections, students vote through RamWeb, and I want to know who counts the votes like from there and where it goes to. Would it go to the same people? Would you all work with them? I just want to know like kind of maybe the structure of how that
Absolutely.
goes.
As for previous elections, I in no place to speak on how that was tallied. Completely different people and wasn't handled by us. As for this election, the votes are actually being stored in what's called a distributed ledger. Think of it just as like a giant message board where all these votes are just getting plastered onto that same board. They're all kind of mushed around, so you can't tell what the vote is quite yet, but once the vote is over, we can unlock all those votes and show them off to the world. And essentially, we'll be the ones tallying it as well and being able to publish that result. But we want to be able to make it so other people are able to verify what we're finding as well. So.
But you said you didn't know the people that actually count it, or who?
It'll just be a script that runs it. It does it all automatically and gathers everything together.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Of course.
Are there any other questions from the presenters? Seeing none, Senator Trout.
Okay, something that just came to mind. So to my understanding, how elections are done is that each college votes through their own college. How will Attica voting be able to discern students from College of Liberal Arts and College of Business and all of those without, like having someone from liberal arts voting for someone from business, for example?
Absolutely. And this is something that we've been aware of for quite a while now. And we are in talks with talking with central IT members to be able to discern which student is a part of which college. And then as far as how we store the votes to make sure that happens, we'll make the decisions, include little flags or something within the vote that discerns this is for College of Liberal Arts, Natural Science, and stuff like that.
Also, just to add, we're also setting it up so students are going to log in through RamWeb still in order to access this application. And so we'll have that information that's provided like within like the token of them logging in through RamWeb in order to know like what college they're a part of and other information.
Okay, awesome. This looks great, y'all. Thanks. I yield the balance of my time.
Are there any other questions for the presenters? Seeing none, thanks y'all for coming out. You can return back up to the gallery.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
We'll now move into our executive reports. Is there anyone from the executive branch present who would like to report?
My friends, I'm going to let Vice President give us. Do you want me to go first? I can go first. All right. A couple of quick updates. How many of you have been to a basketball game this year? There we go. All right. So next Thursday, 24th, we are doing a celebration for the basketball team, watching the last half of their practice and then serving them a meal. It's a part of our broader initiative to celebrate student athletes and demystify the student athlete experience. Given how much time they have invested in athletics, it's challenging to build bridges, especially with ASCSU. And so this is a start to that project. We did the swim and dive team. We gave them bagels for their conference send-off, as well as the women's basketball team on Tuesday. And then next Wednesday, we have the track and field team at 6:45 in the morning. They're going off to conference. Any of you all tentatively interested in that? Maybe a quick show of hands if you want to get up early on Wednesday. There we go. All right, we got no one set. Yes, Bailey as well. Okay, so that's Wednesday, 6:45. And then Thursday with the men's basketball team at 2:30. How many of you all would potentially be interested? Kim is there. All right, Kim. And we've got Mina, Hayden, Sammy. I'm going to take notes here. So making sure we got everyone. So for the 6:45, Noah. This is for the basketball team. Okay, let's do basketball team now. Who is interested? All right. We've got Kim times 2 for the hand, much higher than everyone else. Mina, Hayden, Sammy.
Yes, it is here. Sammy, Hayden, Lizzie, perfect. Anyone else? Yes, all right, Ben. All right, we will end it with a free throw competition, so get ready, get practicing. No, I'm just kidding. But yes, that'll be on the 24th, and then for next Wednesday, we've got those three folks, Noah, Steph, and Bailey. Perfect. How many people are signed up for Day at the Capitol going tomorrow? Amazing. All right, it should be good. We're meeting the whole coalition, 14 universities and community colleges will be there. About 75 students from across the states, addressing their 5 key issue areas, meeting with the Attorney General in the morning, and then the coalition is meeting with 14 different legislators throughout the day, as well as the Speaker of the House, Alec Garnett, CDHE leadership, the director, as well as their executive leadership team. And then meeting with the Joint Budget Committee, co-chair and chair at the very end of the day. So it should be good. If you all have any questions, let me know. We're considering joining the Chamber of Commerce. You'll hear more about this tonight. Our business and community liaison wants to start building relationships there. There are hundreds of businesses in Fort Collins that want to partner with CSU, but it's not a very clear landscape. It's very hierarchical, and there's a lot of political dynamics and otherwise. So we're hoping as ASCSU to help open the gates on that and open opportunities for partnership, sponsorship, fundraising opportunities, more of creating a student-friendly city where students know the city and want to engage with the various businesses and restaurants. Any concerns? Maybe quick show of hands, would you be a fan of us joining the Chamber of Commerce and having various networking opportunities there? Raise your hand if you would be interested in that. Okay, we've got a couple maybes. If you have questions, please let me know. February 22nd, the Immigrant Services Director position, which we've been advocating for, the university has for like 15 years. I'm only 1 year into this advocacy. But we are getting the whole coalition together to build that job description and define exactly where it would fit. I've had a lot of meetings with folks from, some of the folks that I met with, Dora Freias from El Centro, Adam Jala-Paricio from the Health Network, Penny Gonzalez from Student Legal Services, Amelia Castaneda from Communities for Excellence, a lot of different groups that are involved here. So if you have interest in that, please let me know. Anything else I'm missing, Cabinet, more broadly? I'll pass it to these two. Thank you all.
Hey y'all, Benton Rossler, he and his pronouns. I'm the director of housing security this year. Not as exciting as meeting the football or the basketball team as y'all sounded like you were. But another really cool thing that we're working on is we're really starting that U+2 advocacy and reform. ASCSU about 6 years ago employed an attorney to help write a policy proposal. And so I'll be meeting with Student Legal Services to kind of rewrite that for today and for this year. And so as you may have seen, we have a lot of these postcards in the office. I would really love every one of you who is interested, who supports reforming U+2 to fill these out, put them in the box. It would really help us out. And I'm going to bring these to City Council every week that it happens. I'm just going to try to bring like a stack of them just so they know we're staying in their ears. And I'm going to continue working with them and really hope that we can push this U+2 policy reform. If y'all are interested in helping or like learning more about it, please come talk with me. Or if you want to table with me, please come talk with me. Appreciate y'all.
Hello, everybody. I just have a quick student peer review board update. And so, sorry, let me just put it back. Okay, so this week we had Slice and the Student Resolution Center that came to visit us. We've got Ali over there. And Slice has requested a mandatory increase of 13 cents. And as well as the Student Resolution Center that has a couple of mandatory increases as well. And then we also voted on the presentation we had the week prior, which was for Ramride and off-campus life. They proposed to combine both of their fee areas, and we actually just voted yes on that. And so that'll be going into effect. And then next week, we have the CSU Health Network Center that's going to be presenting. Besides mandatory cost increases, they don't project any other increases. But if you do have any questions or concerns about any of the stuff that we voted on or any of the presentations coming up, please let me know. There's also a couple of senators that are in student peer review boards. So please come and stay engaged. Thank you, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. We'll now move into judicial reports. Is there anyone from the judicial branch here to report? Associate Justice Newhouse. That's the little face. Talking face. There you go.
Good evening, everyone. I am Associate Justice Todd Newhouse with the Supreme Court. It's a pleasure to be standing up here and addressing you all for the first time this semester. I hope it's going well for you all. I'm just going to provide a quick update about what's going on around the Supreme Court. First of all, Elena wants to thank everyone who came out to Coffee with the Courts on Tuesday. It was the first of the semester. She appreciates it if you came out. Kelly is continuing to make progress with Rams Know Their Rights, and Marcus is continuing to work on the responsible exemption reform that he has been working on all year. So I know that's very brief. It's kind of hard to discuss these things up here in this sort of format. So if you have any questions about that at any time, feel free to come talk to us in the gallery, come talk to us in our office. I would just like to specifically mention that my office hours are Wednesdays today, 11:30 to 1:30 a.m. and p.m. If that wasn't obvious. Please stop by. Please come and talk or chat about whatever. It doesn't need to be anything super serious. No one on the Supreme Court is a stranger, so please feel free to come talk to us about whatever, whenever. We're always happy to talk about everything. So I think that's all I got. Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. That concludes that. So we'll now move into our confidence business. Will the acting parliamentarian please put 2 hours on the confidence clock? We'll begin with the ratification and election of the business and community liaison. Will someone from the executive branch please come down to present? Chief of Staff Writer. One second. You can have a seat if you want to. Yeah. I'm gonna wait one more second. All right, we will now move into the ratification and elections of officers, starting with the business and community liaison.
Yes.
Wait, awesome. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Hi, everybody, again. So over here we have Karthik Palusa, pronounced he, him, his. And Karthik is a senior studying business administration with a minor in computer science. He is a visionary entrepreneur and a student who is focused, ambitious, and goal-oriented. He's earned second place in the 2019 CSU OtterBox Ethics Competition, also earned the 2019 Customer Discovery Award that was presented by the National Science Foundation Innovation Corps. He's also bilingual. He not only speaks English, but he also speaks Telugu, and he is now also studying Hindi and Spanish, so he will be speaking 4 languages. And then he's also the founder and CEO of Dash Trap LLC, which is a comprehensive platform that enhances the operational and managerial effectiveness of leadership teams. And he's the president of the CSU Computer Information Systems, also known as CIS Club. So yeah, we just think he's more than qualified for this business role in our cabinet, and he would just be an asset to the team. So with your approval, hopefully he'll be working with us.
Yeah. Yes. He can present.
Yeah, we're good with
Oh,
presentation.
all good? Okay. Are there any questions for the nominee? Chair recognizes Chair Welch.
Hello, can you tell us any of the goals you have planned for the rest of the semester as in this position?
Yeah, so first and foremost, we are in a time crunch and I want to establish a certain amount of relationships as well. But first and foremost, as President Dixon said, we want to get in touch with the Chamber of Commerce and develop some connection there with CSU. Alongside that, we also want to get in touch with Otter Cares, which is a part of OtterBox and their nonprofit foundation. And so those two are my biggest goals right now. Following that, we also do want to start compiling a list of businesses that have certain areas where they want to get involved with CSU. And if a senator is looking for a certain resource, we want to be able to create a directory where they can find out who would be the best person to help them, whether it's raising funding or awareness or anything in that manner.
All right, thank you. I yield my time.
Chair Osterhout.
Hey there, I was curious what you're most excited for if you were to receive this position.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited about, but the most important thing is for me being in my last year, I wanted to make an impact that would be able to be seen in the future as well, the next couple of years as well. And so compiling this database of resources that all ASCSU students can use to help enhance not only our community outreach, but also in terms of resources and also developing just kind of a better communication with our local community. Because I think that we are lucky enough that we live in an area where there are so many small businesses. And I think having the opportunity to connect students with those small businesses and develop new relationships is just really exciting for me to see. So hopefully a lot of new relationships being developed.
Cool, thank you. I yield my time.
Are there any other questions for the nominee? Seeing none, we'll move into a secondary speakers list. Seeing none, thank you. We will now enter discussion and debate. If y'all could step out of the room just for a second. We will now enter discussion and debate, starting with the first race placard. Chair Athey.
I move to end discussion and debate.
There's been a motion to end discussion and debate. Is there a second?
Seconded.
All for ending discussion and debate?
Aye.
All against? The ayes have it. Senator Sandoval.
I motion for unanimous consent.
There's been a motion for unanimous consent. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Or is there dissent? Seeing none, this candidate has been unanimously elected. Congratulations, you have now been elected as Business and Community Liaison. Thank you.
Sworn in.
Yeah, is there a member from the judicial branch? We can nominate.
Okay, repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Karthik Kalista,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to defend and uphold
the
rules and regulations set forth by the Constitution of the Associated Students of Colorado State University and will rightfully perform
the
duties of my office
to
the best of my ability.
abilities.
Congratulations.
Thank you. You can head back there. All right, we will now move forward in our new business. We'll start with Bill number 5107, Elections Code Amendment Act.
I don't have access to the documents.
Ooh, it's in a OneDrive.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's see. We will be 1 second.
I move for a 5-minute break. Someone second that?
I second.
Second.
We will now move into a 5-minute break.
You have to vote.
All four moving for a 5-minute break.
I vote for unanimous consent.
Okay.
Is there dissent? Seeing none, we are in a 5-minute recess.
Cool. Yeah, let's take over and I don't have access to it.
I'll do it here.
Wait, what? Can you go to the bathroom? You're not. That's why I was texting you. I was like, Henry.
Oh, yeah. Right? It was my mom's. Thank you.
All good.
Are we on a break? Yeah. Okay, let me know when we come back.
Yes, just keep an eye on.
I will.
It was only 5 minutes, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna mute this.
You're welcome.
The Senate will now be in order. Will all members please make their way back to their chairs?
Yes, it's preferred on record, so you could text it to me or write it down, or if you're sending it. Is that all we're sending all the things?
A little bit. Do you have recommendations?
Well, elections code should go to internal.
Yeah.
Audit should go to budgetary.
I'm gonna send elections code to internal and university probably.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
I'll probably just go one by one after we
Yeah, that sounds
decide on the spot, 'cause they're pretty strict.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. The Senate will now be in order. All members, please return to your seats. We will now move into the first item in new business, Bill number 5107, the Elections Code Amendment Act. Will the acting parliamentarian please read the title and abstract?
Sorry.
Elections Code Amendment Act. This bill amends the ASCSU Elections Code for the 2022 general election.
Is there an author present? Elections Manager Jenkins, you may come present.
Hey, everybody ready? Okay, so there are a lot of things to go through, so I will do this hopefully as quickly and as concisely as possible. So, first and foremost, a lot of the edits that you'll notice with tracking changes are just formatting in nature. There was a lot of things that were off, and I wanted to fix that because that bugs me just a little bit, and now things are just a little bit easier to find. That's one of the most consistent changes throughout the entire elections code. You'll see a lot of Marie Jenkins edited this, but it's all just going to end up being formatting. Now getting to the meat of everything. Section 6, the title of that is called Elections Committee. Subsection 10 was changed. It increases equity by allowing the same time for questions the plaintiff and defendant in violation hearings. Previously, it was 5 minutes for the plaintiff, and add that to an unlimited amount of time to just have some equity and equality in that space, so people can ask as many questions as they'd like, and they could have as much information moving forward as possible. And it also allows the chair to end Q&A if/when questions get a little bit redundant, because sometimes, as y'all have probably seen, in this space, people kind of like to talk and hear themselves talk, and we don't really have time for that. There's a lot to do with the elections committee, especially because there's a lot going on there in such a short period of time that we need to be able to be as efficient as possible, and I feel like that will allow us to do that. The next section that gets amended is section 8, entitled Candidate Certification and Eligibility, subsection 3. The way the elections code stands now is writing candidates have a deadline of the day before voting to let us know if they'd like to be on the ballot and considered for any race. I changed that to the day before voting starts to kind of give them a quote unquote like decent shot of winning, because by the last day, we've already had about 48 hours of people being able to vote, and coming in on the last day is really just kind of an upset. So there needs to be kind of a cutoff line, and I feel like that is the best and most equitable way, because if you are waiting until then to notify us if you're going to be running this year, you had like 2 months, 1.5 months at that point to consider running, and waiting until the last minute, not necessarily the best for anybody. And subsection 4 in that section, the phrase 2-year term kind of seemed redundant and could potentially exclude the Chief Justice and Deputy Chief Justice from that provision of being barred from not being able to serve on the Elections Committee. So I wanted to make sure that all judicial was encompassed
there to make sure that we had as clear a document as possible, because there could be some questions arising from that, and we don't want anything holding us back to do the elections work, because there's a lot to do in a short period of time. Section 9, entitled Campaign Finance, subsection 1 was changed. Turning in the D&E reports on Monday and Friday just seemed to be a little redundant and overzealous, and this will help and that change will help the committee focus on really what is important, instead of having to go over D&E reports twice a week. As long as we have them and we know that people aren't going over their allotment, that's the only thing that matters, and we can still do it even with that change. Section 9, subsection 2, paragraph D. This progression kind of seemed interesting, with the code of ethics violations going from a warning to a major violation to a serious violations, with progressions of violating the elections or the ethics code just seems to make a lot more sense, instead of going from a warning to a major violation to yet another major violation. That just seems to make more sequential sense, at least to me. Subsection 3, paragraph C, sections 1 and subsection A of campaign finance puts a deadline to send in the D&E report when it's requested, while keeping in mind that candidates are students that also need breaks, so weekends won't be counted in the 24-hour turnaround time that is expected of candidates or campaigns, because the weekend really needs to be a time to compress and take a break from school and just kind of take time for themselves, which is something that we do really need to recognize in this space, because it's a lot. And running is also a lot. It takes a lot of energy out of people, and we need to be mindful of that. Subsection 9 and 10, it raises, with campaign finance, it raises the speaker allotment of money to match the president/vice president campaign. I don't fully understand why those two numbers were different. Both of them are in charge of leading their respective branches, so the money that they're allowed to use during campaigning should be the same. And senators should also be able to spend $300 instead of $200, because we're seeing a lot of hikes in prices for a lot of basic necessities that people might need for campaigning, and our government documents should reflect what's going on in the real world, and that theoretically should do it. Section 10, entitled Campaigning, subsection 1, paragraph A, I fixed grammar, because some of these things just really bug me. They're like, cool, we want to word things and be kind of formal, but also it can be a little confusing here and there. And I added that any repeat violation of ethics codes would be considered a serious offense, instead of the major offense that it is the first time, because people should have learned by then. And the ethics code is also something we go over during orientation, so that's something that candidates are going to be going into the election cycle and the campaign period knowing. Subsection 2, paragraph E and G were also changed. E, this put more of a comprehensive system of penalties for campaigns for not being media approved, because all of that just makes a little bit more sense. There's a reason that there's that check in place to make sure that nothing gets violated with the elections committee, and making sure that we aren't doing anything to steer off potential members of CSU, making sure that everybody feels as included and welcome at this university as possible. That has been kind of an issue in the past with student options, and we need to curtail that as much as possible. And paragraph G, I added that one in, and I already talked with the director of marketing to make sure that she would be able to make generic marketing material that wouldn't need approval, as long as it only contains a picture of the candidate or candidates, their campaign slogan if they have one, and an initiative that the candidate wants to pursue. And of course, there were also penalties for using foul language or derogatory remarks. We want to avoid that as much as possible. The biggest change here happens in subsections 3, 5, 6, 8, 11, 12, 13, 14, 17, 18, and 22. The only thing that was added was something to the effect of the any repeat violations at the discretion of the elections committee could be raised from either a minor or a major violation, to make sure that we don't have any repeat offenses or try to prevent any repeat offenses from happening. And that is something that is already kind of in the elections code. I just wanted to enumerate that as much as possible. And for those of you that are curious, that power is granted to the Elections Committee implicitly in section 12, subsection 1, paragraph B. Just really wanted to enumerate that so candidates weren't caught off guard too much. If something that says it's a minor violation in the elections code turns out to be a major violation or a serious violation for them, wanted to make sure that they have all of the information up front. And subsection 10 in that same section, I added dining centers to places that should be free of campaigning because let's be honest, people just want to eat. They don't want to be bugged when you go into a dining hall. Like if I were a first year here, that'd be one of the most interesting interactions. And I really wouldn't try to stay and figure out what candidates want, and honestly would probably sour me a lot in their campaigns. People just want to eat, let them eat. And in subsection 13, I strengthened the harassment protections for students on social media because that is something that was a really big problem last year, and I wanted to make sure that we were as inclusive as possible to all of the different aspects that social media has. So I included mentioning students who have overtly said that they do not want to be a part of any of the campaigns, making sure that they are protected from being harassed by campaigns through multiple mentions in comments or even comments on their own posts that they post privately about any campaigns, if that's something that they've explicitly said they don't want. Because we need to make sure that students are able to do what they do best, and that is be here to learn and not really be harassed by any of these campaigns. Lastly, voting. I amended this section to reflect the use of ranked choice voting that we are moving towards in this election cycle. And subsection 11, paragraph A, instituted a penalty for campaigns operating voting terminals because there had to be something there to prevent them from doing that. I really just felt like, yeah, you can't do it, but what happens if campaigns are caught doing that? We wouldn't know, but now we do. And subsection 13, paragraph B, just enumerated the runoff procedure to make sure that it was as efficient as possible. In the event that any of that's actually going to need to happen, which theoretically with ranked choice voting it won't. In the event that a presidential and vice presidential ticket were tied with another, or like multiple ties, the Senate would decide, and they had to select from all of the candidates. This way, after the first round of voting, the top two vote leaders move on to the runoff, and the winner there wins. And the same thing for speaker. The same procedure is set out there. And with section 12 penalties, subsection 8 was completely rewritten because the old subsection 8 was completely absorbed by subsection 7 because the penalties for the president, vice president ticket and speaker of the Senate campaigns are uniform now because they are able to spend the same amount of money. And all of that was just money based, reducing however much money that campaign could spend by X amount, depending on if they committed a minor, major, or serious violation. And for Senate campaigns, I increased the amount that they could be deducted from their allotted money to spend because their allotment to spend was increased by $100. So now $25 gets taken off for minor violations, 30 for major, and 50 for serious violations, simply because the campaign allotment is now $300 instead of $200. And subsection 9 there, weekends don't count towards suspension because there's little to no engagement during the weekends, and we should be as equitable as possible because if somebody gets suspended on Monday, that Tuesday and potentially Wednesday suspension from campaigning is going to be a whole heck of a lot more harmful than being suspended, say for a Saturday or Sunday, because nobody's going to be out on the plaza to listen to people campaign. So just wanting to give a good equalizer and equityizer, I guess, there as well. And subsection 14 just gives appellate jurisdiction to the Supreme Court in the event that people want to appeal any of the decisions made by the Elections Committee when
they have violations or when they are found to have committed some violation. And the last change was in section 13, subsection 1, paragraph B, just add inclusive language. It changes his or her to they. And that's that. Those are all of the elections code changes that I've made.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the author? Senator Silverheart.
Really specific question, but when you said limited from dining centers, does that include like, if you know like about the Foundry or Braden, like there's that kind of like lobby area outside of the dining centers, does it include that as well?
So that is also going to be prohibited through residence halls because people can't campaign in the residence halls and those lobbies are considered part of this buildings.
Awesome. Are there any other questions for the author? Senator Scher.
Is the lobby of Ramshorn, does that count? Because it's not technically like in the residence hall, and it's not technically the dining hall, so I could see that being a loophole if someone was like really watchful.
The building of Ramshorn is considered to be a dining hall in and of itself. It's similar to Durrell. That is the Durrell Dining Center. It is the Ramshorn Dining Center. So those buildings are also off limits because of how the university classifies them.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for the author? Seeing none, thank you. You may yield the floor. I'll send this piece of legislation to University and Internal Affairs.
Just to internal, internal document.
I'll just send this to Internal.
Thank you all so much for the rest of your night.
We'll now move on. We'll now move on to bill number 5108, Legislative Cabinet Retroactive Audit. Will the acting parliamentarian please read the title and abstract? Yeah, the title and abstract.
Bill 5108, Legislative Cabinet Retroactive Audit. Abstract, this bill aims to ensure that the 51st Legislative Cabinet is completing its job duties and has rightfully earned its payment of student fees by running an audit.
Is there an author present?
Yes.
You may present.
Okay, I don't have a ton to say about this bill other than my goal in it is to create a bunch of transparency within the legislative cabinet. I think that there's been okay. Now I can speak again. I think that there's been a lot of secrecy in the space or something like that. I don't know. I would like to create some more transparency. Do have a couple of edits already. I know that Jen Johnson does not wish to perform this audit anymore, and so we'll be removing that in committee. And I also know that the results of this bill cannot affect pay because anyone working at ASCSU falls under an exempt status. I don't know exactly all of the titles. Someone else can correct me if they want, but that's the gist. So basically can't affect pay, but it will be able to tell us anyone who is not actively doing their jobs, and then we can deal with it from there. This has no repercussions or anything happening from the audit. It is just purely informational. That's all I have.
Are there any questions for the author? Seeing none, this legislation will be sent to Internal Affairs. And I think that's it.
Budgetary too,
Budgetary?
if she wants that. Yeah.
I'll send this to Internal Affairs and Budgetary. We'll now move on to the next item on our agenda, bill number 5109, building an accessible door at Office of Inclusive Excellence. Is there an author present? Bill number 5109.
I'll go get him.
Will the acting parliamentarian please read the title and abstract?
Bill 5109, building an accessible door at Office of Inclusive Excellence. Abstract, this bill allocates $5,120 to build an accessible door on the front of the Office of Inclusive Excellence, also known as the CSU Diversity House, to ensure that all CSU students can access the building that symbolizes CSU's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion.
The author may now present.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Actually, to be candid, I know I mentioned it to you. We did actually withdraw this bill from the floor. I wanted to explain to the group first. We funded it entirely through executive budget. This happened about 7 days ago or so. Given the transition with the Senate, we just weren't sure how soon this could happen, and we know it's an urgent priority. But what I will mention, thoughts on any other places on campus that need a door. My next goal is that door right there, which I know we've been discussing for a while, does not have an accessible opener on it. So I plan to submit another bill like this for that door here in the LSC. And if you have any goals or questions about the installation at the Inclusive Excellence office, let me know. Sound good? I can also field questions if anyone has any.
I mean, seeing as this bill is removed, I think we're just going to go ahead and move on with our agenda. Thank you, Bill.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you all.
We'll now move to bill number 5110, funding for the extension of the all-gender restroom pilot program. Will the acting parliamentarian please read the title and abstract?
Bill 5110, funding for the expansion of the all-gender restroom pilot program. Abstract, this bill aims to receive $6,000 in funding for the continuation and addition of 30 more permanent QR code wayfinding signage for all gender restrooms on campus.
The author may now present.
Hey y'all, Benjamin Rosser. I'm presenting for Charlie. Charlie is in rehearsal every Wednesday evening for the next I think another week or two. So I helped write this, but I didn't help write the original one. So originally there were signs placed around campus, inclusive restroom signs that had QR codes. You could scan them and it'll direct you to the nearest all gender restroom to whatever that building is. And they found a lot of interest in that. They found a lot of students that really found support from that and felt at home. And they also found that there was a lot of places that lacked this. And so what this bill is asking for is to continue that effort and to make sure that the rest of the buildings and the spaces that lack those signages can get access to those signs. So students who would like to use a non-gendered restroom can find access to those.
Are there any questions for the author? Senator Trout.
So how many buildings roughly do not have the QR code? I know the Visual Arts building has one. I can't think of any other ones off the top of my head.
I do not think I'd be able to tell you that. I'm so sorry.
Hi, so I worked on the original bill, and we only put them in like 30 buildings. And I think that that's pushing it also. I don't remember the exact number, but it was definitely less than 30. So there's, a couple hundred buildings on campus.
And I believe there are well over 200 all-gender restrooms. So there are a lot of restrooms that are in a lot of places that don't have signage to let people know where they are.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I yield my time, Speaker.
Are there any other questions for the author? Seeing none, I'm going to send this to University Affairs as well as Budgetary. Thank you. We'll now move on in our agenda. We'll move to bill number 5111. Will the acting parliamentarian please read the name and title?
Bill 5111, extending the sunset clause for Bill 5022, the Good Neighbor Program Bill. Abstract. This one word change that will extend the sunset clause of Bill 5022, the Good Neighbor Program Bill, due to delayed hiring start date of the property management liaison.
Is the author present?
Benton went to go get Christian.
Understand.
My apologies. Point of clarification. Director Rossler went to go get President Dixon.
The author cannot present.
Hello, my friends. I'm sorry, I forgot that I had two bills on the floor tonight. This one is for the Good Neighbor Program, which if any of you all are familiar, it's the program to ensure that students basically don't get treated poorly by landlords in Fort Collins. It's a program that incentivizes good behavior, ethical practices, transparency, and just responsible management of student relationships. And so this program, because it started 6 months later than originally planned, the director was hired 6 months later than originally planned. We're extending it. If you can scroll down on the actual document.
What do you want?
Oh,
Yes.
Down. 2 years. Okay, so it's only a 2-word change. Instead of over 2 years, it would be over 3 years, including fiscal year 24. So it's not changing the original allocation for the position of director of Good Neighbor Program. It's just extending it so that that person can work longer since they started 6 months late and the salary savings apply at the back half. Happy to welcome any questions.
Are there any questions for the author? Seeing none, I'll send this piece of legislation to Budgetary Affairs. We'll now move to bill number 5112. Will the acting parliamentarian please read the name and abstract?
Bill 5112, continuing support for Rams Against Hunger food pantries. Abstract. This bill will allocate $30,000 from the ASCSU Senate discretionary account over 3 years in $10,000 per year increments towards maintaining the success of the Rams Against Hunger pocket pantries that were created and originally funded by ASCSU in 2018.
The author may now present.
Hey, y'all. So this bill, this is, ASCSU started the pocket pantries in 2018. The director of health collaborated with a few other departments on making that happen, and they went through Senate. They actually allocated $50,000 at the time over the 3 years, so that was about $13,000 a year. This allowed them to create the spaces to stock the pantries, to get all the furniture and things they needed in those pantry locations. And so now this ask is lesser. It's for $30,000 over those 3 years, so it'd be $10,000 a year. And we are hoping that in collaboration with Michael Buttram, the coordinator for Rams Against Hunger and basic needs coordinator at CSU, that we can get more nutritious and easy to eat quick foods for students. A lot of these pantries have canned foods, things you can only really eat if you microwave them and do other things. We want to find a way to streamline that and make sure that students can eat like a granola bar or something nutritious as fast as they need to on their way to campus or on their way to class.
Are there any questions for the author? Senator Trout?
So you should, with the original bill, it was, or for the original funding, it was $50,000, is that correct?
Yes, it was $50,000 over 3 years.
Okay, and why does that funding decrease to 30,000 for 10,000 per the 3 years?
Yeah, so it's mostly due to their capital needs, just because there were capital needs initially to just start the program, to get it built up, to get those locations set up, and to get all like the cabinets and doors and everything they needed. Now it's really just to continue that and make sure that it stays filled and that there's nutritious foods filled in them. So yeah, there isn't as much of a need. And we also, through those 3 years, now we have a really great partnership with the Food Bank of Delaware County and a few other local food co-ops. So we get really good access to low cost foods that are nutritious. And so yeah, we were just able to get a lot better deals now that this program has been built out through the years.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I yield my time, Speaker.
Senator Karasada?
And this is my own curiosity. Are there only pocket pantries in the LSC?
So there are multiple more. There's a pocket pantry at University Village,
There is a lot of places actually wanted pocket pantries. There are only, I believe, 7 total. You'll find one at the stadium, University Village, over in, I believe Aggie has one as well. And yeah, the LSC has about 3 to 4 of them. Most of them are between the SDPS offices and with ASCSUs as well. Yeah, so those are the locations that we'd be filling out.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions for the author? Senator Sandoval.
Do you plan on adding more pocket pantries around campus, or is the 7 that is in place kind of it?
Yeah, this has been a conversation with Michael for some time now. Just due to like there are a few reasons that he expressed not the desire to build more, and they were mostly centered around the intention of these pantries. They were chosen to be in these very specific locations where there's high student activity, and where students will be going from those places to their classes. It wasn't meant to be like, this is where you will go for all of your meals, but it's to get you through the day. It's to make sure you have that nutrition for those classes that you have to get to. So they wanted to keep it at fewer locations. One, for bandwidth of their own efforts. They don't have the capacity to like go around and fill all these pantries. And the other one is to hold that mission of these are centered on providing for that immediate need. And from these big locations where people go a lot. And then that permanent pantry that was built is really the place for when you need long-term food that they have you covered.
Are there any more questions for the author?
Point of clarification. So the pocket pantries, just for those who are unaware, there's one at the Laurie Student Center, level 200. It says on the website, ASCSU Plaza side entrance. There's one at University Housing at the Aggie Village Family Apartments, the University Village Center Apartments, the Fostering Success and Student Achievement, the SDPS kitchens, to my understanding, all of them, the Adult Learner and Veteran Services, and CSU Counseling. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the author? Senator Burge.
So, to provide better food for the food pantry, would you be considering upping the budget to include better food products?
Yeah, and I know that we talked about this a little bit. I talked to Brandon as well, and I've had this conversation with Michael briefly, and he was all on board. He doesn't think that there would be, if an increase, he said that it would only be like $2,000 a year to really get those better foods. So it would be, if we increased it, he said 36,000 would be like the most that he would want to ask for to make sure that we can get those foods. And I actually just created a survey that I'm going to be tabling and asking students to share what is it that brings you to the pantries, why don't you go to the pantries, and what would get you to the pantries. So we're really going to find out what those foods are that students want to see in those. And that's actually, so we're hoping to keep it in whatever, and I'm assuming budgetary and probably university affairs as well. We want to kind of leave it there while we do that outreach and make sure that we can find the best foods and make sure that we're using the money in the best way. So we would entertain increasing, but we first want to make sure that we know what foods we want to be getting if we did increase.
Are there any other questions for the author? Seeing none, I'm going to send this to University and Budgetary. Thank you. We will now move into our old business, starting with resolution number 5101, the 51st Senate bylaws. We did have conference committee for this, so we will present those changes now. So since I was the parliamentarian who made the changes, I'm going to give the chair to Pro Temp Baum and present these changes myself. All right, so I know we all saw these in committee, so I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go through here pretty fast. Really just of the conflicting changes. So there was a conflict on micro legislation. Oh, here we go. So there's a conflict in the micro legislation area. This is to do with the due date for legislation. So it says all legislation shall be submitted to the official email of the parliamentarian by Wednesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time in order to be processed during the legislative cabinet meeting and added to the Senate agenda for the following week. That was the change made in budgetary affairs. And then yes, that was the change made in budgetary affairs.
So now we have to vote on this change. Which one did you change or not?
So we'll have to vote on the changes. If those in favor, please say aye.
No. So
Roll call.
So it's between the budgetary change to change it to Wednesday or the university change to leave it on Friday.
Yes. So since there's a conflict, the budgetary wanted it on Wednesday, and then
And then university wants it on
and
Friday.
university wants it on Friday.
So vote between the two. So all in favor for the budgetary.
For all in favor for budgetary for on Wednesday, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say nay.
Okay. Budgetary wins.
Budgetary wins.
Okay.
Let's see.
All right. So we had conflicting sections. Yeah, all committees had different stuff here.
This is changed.
Right. There was something. I think it was this to
It's that one,
delete. Yeah. So in budgetary affairs, it was determined that the requirement for senators to write at least one resolution, bill, or lex per semester with the proper endorsements. And then section D, associate senators are required to write at least one resolution, bill, or lex per year, or Senate with the proper endorsements. This was removed in budgetary affairs.
University left it at 1 per year.
University affairs left it at requiring one per year. So budgetary removed the requirement altogether. University affairs required one per year.
Another conflict, so we'll have to vote for budgetary to completely remove sections E and D. Please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say nay. Budgetary wins.
So there was a conflicting change as the agenda is set. Some committees removed the fight song, some committees left the fight song in. I believe University Affairs left or removed the fight song. Internal also removed it. Budgetary kept the fight song. Yes. So,
I have a point of information that budgetary did have some guidelines of fight song instead.
yes, they did. But overall, it stayed and budgetary was removed in the other two committees.
So the conflicting change is to remove it. So ask those in favor of removing.
Another conflict. For those in favor of removing the fight song from the agenda, please say yay.
Yay.
Please, for those against, please say nay.
Yay.
There's division. Those who say yay, please raise your placards high. Those against, please raise your placards. On Zoom?
What?
On Zoom? please sit down. Those who abstain. It's just simple majority, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's all. From a vote from 9 to 7 to 3, the yeas have it. Awesome.
Okay,
That's all.
turn off the
I'll be stepping down as chair and speak against. Thank you. That is all the changes in the 50% Senate bylaws. We will now move into discussion and debate on this document, starting with the first race placard. Chair Athey.
Okay, I actually have a couple of motions I would like to edit the bylaws. Let me pull back up my notes really quick. So at the very top of the document is two definitions that I, as the chair of internal, was supposed to go back and fill in to save time, and I forgot to add them. So I would like to motion to add the board for student organization funding and student fee review board by BSOP and SFRP. Is my first motion.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
All for?
Aye.
All against? This motion passes.
Cool. Okay, my second motion is to the motion that I did at the beginning of Senate at every session to move confidence business to just after judicial reports.
There's been a motion to move confidence business just after judicial reports in the agenda. Is there a second?
Seconded.
All for?
Aye.
All against? This motion passes.
Okay, and then my last motion, I have to find the exact section in here. There's a section that defines, it doesn't fully define it. Floor rights as the area past the threshold. I would like to make a quick change to fix that. Give me 1 second so I can find the right spot. Okay, Rule 2, Section A, when held in the ASCSU Senate chambers, the area past the threshold will only be accessible to members with floor rights. I'd like to redefine it as the area past the staircase. Like, I'm open to suggestions on the exact wording here, trying to define what exactly floor rights are to prevent future miscommunication. Does anybody have any suggestions for wording?
Maybe no further past gallery, because stairs are like stairs, but people hang out in the gallery.
Do we, at that point, would we need to also define what gallery is then? Senator Carcetto.
What about like individuals with like given pre-authorization beforehand? You know, because sometimes people do need to be up here, like a mic doesn't work. So like individuals or persons with pre-authorization to be.
My concern in using that language is that it then leaves it back up to the discretion of the chair, which is where the confusion came in last time. Does that make sense?
Chair Stroud.
What about tiered seating and front podium spaces?
There's been a motion to add this to the agenda or to the bylaws. Is there a second?
Wait, before you make his motion, let me type it so I make sure that I have the right word. Hold on, will you say it one more time?
Yeah, it's tiered seating and front podium spaces.
Okay, so now my motion is to say, when held in the ASCSU Senate chambers, the area including the tiered seating in the front podium spaces past the threshold will only be accessible to members with floor rights. That sounds good. Okay, now I'm making the motion.
This motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
All for?
Aye.
All against? The ayes have it. This motion passes. Are there more motions at this time?
Seeing none, we will now move into discussion and debate on this document, starting with the first raised platform.
I moved to previous question, and then I also moved for unanimous consent on this document because I hear no discussion.
There's been a motion for previous question and unanimous consent. Is there dissent? Seeing none, this document passes. Ooh, all right. We'll now move into the final item of old business, bill number 5106, fixing formatting errors. Will the acting parliamentarian please read the title and abstract? And will one of the chairs please take over as acting parliamentarian?
This is in mine.
Never mind.
Bill 5106, fixing formatting errors. Abstract, the formatting of the ASCSU Constitution is done in such a way that makes it difficult to understand. This bill seeks to change that.
Is there an author present?
Point of information, Senator Patasetto went to go get elections manager vacancies.
Thank you. What I want to see you guys, y'all, it's crazy.
And it's not even 8:30.
All right, just for a refresher, will the acting parliamentarian please read the title and abstract one more time?
Bill 5106, fixing formatting errors. The formatting of the ASCSU Constitution is done in such a way that makes it difficult to understand. This bill seeks to change that. Marie said that she accepts all the change.
Clarification.
Yes.
Authors does speak at second reading.
Oh, my bad. So seeing as the author has accepted all the changes, we'll move into discussion and debate on this document, starting with the first raised placard.
I move to previous question and then move for unanimous consent on this document.
Is there dissent? Seeing none, this document passes. That concludes.
You have to do, don't forget.
Yeah. That concludes old business. We will now move into committee reports, starting with budgetary affairs.
Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm so proud of all the hard work we've done tonight. Quick refresher, budgetary has a lot of not a lot, maybe like 2 pieces of legislation that we got to touch base on real quick from last semester. We're excited to look at all this new legislation from this week. Budgetary affairs will be this Friday at 4. Might change in the following weeks. We don't know yet. We'll catch the vibes. But it's going to be in LSC room upstairs somewhere. Check the space for flyers. Also, this week, it's going to be an 80s retro theme. Take it as you will. But this week, Friday at 4, look out for the flyers. 80s retro theme. Thank you. Oh, if you have any questions about like bills or anything or legislation, please email my budgetary affairs email. I'm always here for a chat. Thank you.
Internal affairs.
Internal is still meeting at 4 o'clock on Fridays. We've been officially scheduled for that date and time since the 28th of January, and it has been on the website since Senate last week. We will still be meeting this week on Friday in the conference room, and we will have a virtual option for anyone interested. We will be primarily looking at the elections code, and we will need to stay until we finish looking over them so we can discharge them this week. If you have the spoons to stay late, please do, but I recognize it's after 5 o'clock on a Friday. So, thank you, I yield.
University affairs.
All right, hi everyone, how are you doing? So, University Affairs is normally on Thursday from 4 to 5, which is same as everyone else's, but on a different day. Also, I won't be there next week, tomorrow, because I'm doing Daily Capitals, but my vice chair might be chairing, so we may be helping, we might not be. I'll be sending a text in the group chat and like there'll be more information about what's going to happen. I'll have a further discussion about that later. But yeah. Yep, and then also same with everyone else said, having questions about bills, writing, or anything to do with Senate, email my email, but make sure it says committee on there and don't actually send the university to the director of university affairs. That's a different email account. So if you do have email me, make sure it's committee. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. We'll now move into caucus reports, starting with Women's Caucus.
Hi everyone, Treasure Morgan, she, her, hers. Yeah, so I finally decided on the time. Yeah, next week on Thursdays from 12:30 to 1:30. So yeah, just if you're available, come by and we can have a chat or something. We'll see. So yeah, please come by. Ayo.
Diversity and inclusion.
Hi, y'all. I'm Mia, Chair Ritter for the Diversity Inclusion Caucus. I will have my first caucus next Friday of the semester from 2 to 3 p.m. in the conference room here. So if you can make it, I would love to see you all there. Reminder next week, not this week, but next. I'll send out a reminder to the group chat. If you're not in the group chat, please reach out to my emails on the website. And I can get you connected to that. I had to lock my group me because someone was trying to get people to give them money, I guess, on a couple of caucus scrutinies. But besides the point, it's secure, so it looks like someone had actually joined and you're able to request it and I'll accept you. So yeah, hope to see you next Friday, 2 p.m. Conference room, B Square. See ya. Bye, y'all.
We'll now move into legislative officer reports, starting with myself. I am really excited to be your new speaker. I hope you all will bear with me a little bit. I'm kind of getting used to still like chairing and stuff, but I'm hoping, especially since it's only 8:20 and we're almost done, that the rest of the semester stays smooth. We have an empty docket now, so send in your legislation to the parliamentarian. Which parliamentarian elections we're hoping to have next week. Depending on how much legislation we have, how busy we are, because we have had quite a few elections recently. Hopefully, the hope is to have it next week. But other than that, I really encourage y'all to reach out to me. I want to interact with all of y'all. I know I've met pretty much everyone here, but there's a few faces I haven't had a chance to have a conversation with. So feel free to shoot me an email. Let's set up a meeting. Anything y'all need, please let me know. And with that, we'll go to Speaker Pro Tem Board.
Hey y'all, keeping this nice and short. Thank you for your patience. This is my first time sharing. So one, I'm working on the stress event bill with Senator Sandoval. Would like to see y'all at least participate, cooperate, or collaborate on this bill to see what magic we make out of that. Two, for my job duties, I am of course bringing back the clock changes. Of course, if you have any other pronoun changes, please let me know immediately. I of course have to change mine. And three, just changing the atmosphere here. The space is yours, so please feel free to bring food, beverages, back support devices, blankets, whatsoever. Just please be considerate of those around you and those who clean up this space. We treat the custodian as we treat the CEO. So thank you.
I like that.
We do not have a parliamentarian, so we'll move into recruitment and retention officer report.
Hi everyone. So glad to see everyone here. So just a few updates. In this week's email, I hope y'all saw that there is a poster with a QR code about RAM recognition. That'll take you to Google Doc. Please fill that out. So yes. As well as so about legislative writing workshop night, I'm hoping to hold that 2 weeks from to week after next. Sorry. So that'll be February 28th, I believe. Please just I sent a little poll to the group me. If you could fill that out. If you need to be in the group me, please let me know. And that's all I have. Thank you.
We will now move into Senator and Associate Senator reports, starting with the first race placard, Senator Carosello.
Sure.
Chair Amy.
Okay, so I'm speaking as Senator for the Student Disability Center, not as Chair of the Economic Affairs Committee. I want to update you all on the happenings of the disabled community. At an LA community college, a group of blind students asked for basic accommodations to access their course materials. The college failed to provide that request, and the students were forced to resort to legal action. The college is still fighting, needing to give those accommodations, and it has since been sent to the Supreme Court. If the college wins this, it will bring down the only civil rights law that my community has protecting our access to the community. A little closer to home, I would like to bring up the concerns of my constituents. On January 1st, Rory Lowe, they, them, sent an email to as many CSU leadership people as they could. If you received this email, can you please raise your hand? That's what I thought. With the new rules about the ever-changing mask requirement, I would like to read their email to the body. This is a bit long, but it is important that you all hear it and think critically, and think about the pandemic in relation to my community, not just yourself and your own discomfort. I would like to motion to extend my speaking time by an extra 10 minutes so that I can read this email in full.
There's been a motion to extend speaking time for an extra 10 minutes. Is there a second?
Seconded.
All for?
Aye.
All against? Ayes have it.
I initially attempted to send this using the reply all function with the mailing list. I do not have access to this mailing list, and so therefore I am resending this. In writing about her breast cancer, Audit wrote, I have come to believe over and over again that what is most important to me must be spoken, made verbal, and shared, even at the risk of having it bruised or misunderstood. At risk of being bruised and misunderstood, I hope that I can empower other disabled and chronically ill people to take space in a pandemic where our pre-existing conditions are qualifiers for our deaths mattering. Be loud, be angry, and those with the power to do something, do something. Dear President McConnell and other folks, to put it bluntly, are you effing kidding me? Requiring boosters, and only boosters. You want to talk science, Joyce? Let's have a little reality check, shall we? Did you even consult a single chronically ill or high-risk person when making this decision? Like, at all? I doubt it. All of you with the power to actually do something are insulated by graduate degrees, career stability, and a lot of you, tenure. And yes, for most of you, COVID-19 will be mild. Interestingly enough, however, 75% of polio cases are asymptomatic. Only 25% of polio cases result in mild symptoms. And the paralysis we know and remember in polio only occurs in less than 1% of all polio cases. The mortality rate for acute paralytic polio is between 5 and 15%. And yes, the polio vaccine, which began being used in large-scale vaccination in 1954, is incredibly effective. However, it was not until the creation of the Global Polio Eradication Initiative in 1988 that there was a 99% decrease in types 1, 2, and 3 of polio internationally. It was equitable vaccine policy that has dramatically reduced polio. Why did I mention that? Well, a few reasons. 81% of those affected with COVID-19 will have mild symptoms. 14% of COVID-19 cases are severe. 5% of COVID-19 cases are critical. So when you say most COVID-19 is mild, most polio is also mild. Mild polio. Sounds funky, huh? Let's talk about that 5%. COVID-19 has been shown to have disparate impacts, most of which you probably do not care about because, quite frankly, the only people who listen to disabled people are disabled. But generally, the mortality rate for critical COVID-19 cases is between 11.3 and 42.5%, depending on your age. And that's not even factoring in mechanical ventilation. You mentioned the ICUs being overwhelmed, and you see if you're placed on a ventilator for respiratory failure for COVID-19, more than likely you'll die. In fact, almost half of patients died on invasive medical ventilation. More conservative estimates put that rate between 30 and 35% for dying on a ventilator. Oh, but I'm not done. You see, when you take into account severely immunocompromised people, such as those with HIV, those on medication for recent organ transplants or cancer-treating medications, and those on medications that compromise the immune system, the risk of dying increases by 60% compared to non-immunocompromised people who are also hospitalized. When you plan your New Year's Eve and write your resolutions, people in my community are planning their deaths and writing their wills. Do you know how, bad word, it is to see my friends tweeting about finding homes for their cats because Omicron is going to kill them while you send emails about safe New Year's Eve plans? You are so concerned with your own profit, folks in power, that you only use science when it fits your narrative.
Because the real science, the one not influenced by your power and paycheck, says vaccines aren't enough on their own. In fact, epidemiologists from around the country and globe, health officials and leaders agree that vaccination on its own is not enough to end the pandemic. And in fact, vaccine rollout is so deeply inequitable that boosters are prolonging the pandemic. The consensus is Omicron is a result of vaccine inequity, and we cannot boost our way out of the pandemic. Holding off on universal booster shots means the pandemic ends sooner, so we can bring up international vaccination rates. Not only that, but there are more people getting their boosters than a first dose of the vaccine. In fact, 3 times as many people are getting a booster shot than a first dose. And you are now asking 20,000 plus people to get a booster dose when the science shows clearly that boosters are not the answer unless you actually need one. And most of you do not effing need one. Unless you are high risk for severe to critical outcomes or have a high risk loved one, do not get a booster. In fact, by getting a booster, you're not only fueling the pandemic, but vaccine hesitancy. But you want to know what will end the pandemic? It's not boosting, it's equitable vaccination and lifestyle modifications. Considering how many doors I get stuck in with my mobility aids on campus, I think everyone can handle a few lifestyle modifications, seriously. I'm told all the time to stay inside if I don't like it, that socially distancing at least 6 feet, capacity limits, and mask mandates are unpopular. Sorry, my life isn't a BS prom popularity contest, and with persistent disparities in vaccine distribution for our community members of color, I quite frankly think y'all need to suck it the F up. If we end inequity, we end the pandemic. So rather than force a bunch of privileged, able-bodied white people, 70% of undergraduates, to get a booster they don't need, maybe follow the actual science. We know social distancing of at least 6 feet works. Every word in that last sentence has a different source attached to it. So put social distancing limits back in place. Wear a KN95, cancel your massive football games for a few more months, and help the unvaccinated get vaccinated. Your booster shot is worse than useless. It's prolonging this whole pandemic. And quite frankly, how you yanked away broad remote accommodations, made them a nightmare to actually get. The Student Disability Center is backed up, and remote access must be approved by a group is not lost on me. And you did that during the midst of Delta, and now Omicron is ravaging my community, and you are making it worse. Oh, and immunocompromised and chronically ill people were excluded on COVID-19 vaccine trials and continue to be excluded. The elderly are also excluded from not only vaccine trials, but trials of new medications to treat COVID-19. Vaccines are safe. The lack of inclusion of vulnerable groups just furthers the inequity, and while rare, I am concerned about a flare to my own chronic illness. I am not alone in that fear either. The booster requirement puts me into a difficult place because the healthcare system is so strained that I can't get in to see my specialist regularly, and that means it's difficult for me to make an informed decision about the risks of my doctor about getting the booster. So now I am in a precarious spot of not being able to make a choice, and those who should be prioritizing the well-being of their community are prioritizing their own paycheck. And yes, vaccines are an important tool to end the pandemic. We need to be making sure that the unvaccinated get vaccinated, not boosters for all. I've saved the best for last. I haven't even touched long COVID yet. Between 10 and 22% of people are ending up with long COVID. You know what long COVID is? It's a brilliant combination of POTS, chronic fatigue syndrome, dysautonomia, aka dysfunction of your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, and a whole smattering of chronic illnesses that never go away in most cases. Oh, and that 10 to 22% is for everyone. You might get mild COVID, but then end up regaining your sense of taste and smell for everything to taste like sewage for the rest of your life. And then when you try to stand up, you'll pass out from POTS. And then you'll end up with wicked diarrhea from COVID wrecking your autonomic nervous system. And then you won't be able to focus from brain fog. And you think you're tired now? Wait until you know what real tired feels like with fatigue from a chronic illness. You will sleep for 16 hours and wake up feeling like you haven't slept in years. And the best part, doctors will call you crazy. So when you join the Chronic Illness Club from a post-viral infection, you can find us on #NEISVoid on Twitter. We will be here and we will welcome you in with open arms. Believe it or not, disabled people are fighting for a future for all of us. I'm pissed because we deserve better. We don't want to be endlessly stuck online or in this pandemic. We want to be safe and equitable. Social distancing, capacity limits, masks, and helping the unvaccinated get vaccinated is the way out. We can't eradicate COVID-19, but we can learn to live with it as safely as possible by focusing on equity with vaccines, healthcare, and making sure our buildings and masks are adequate. Oh, and if you're not so set on being in person, maybe provide free KN95s to folks on campus.
instead of making a poor choice that is fueling the pandemic. You think it's bad now? If you don't act now for equity, it'll be so much worse. But by all means, disregard this email. I know pre-existing conditions are a major qualifier for empathy these days. I'll just be here watching my friends die, waiting to welcome you to the club of doctors who won't believe you, insurance that won't cover your medical needs, and a government that will deny your disability benefits. But hey, what do I know? I'm just one queer who uses mobility aids with a bad immune system and POTS. Pissed, Rory Lowe. I'd like you all to think about the disabled community, and yeah, especially in relation to the mask mandate and everything. Please think about other people other than yourselves and share that with your friends. Thank you.
Are there any other senator or associate senator reports? Senator Terrasato.
So that's a tough act to follow. But hi y'all, my name is Kimberly Carracedo. I am the senator for El Centro. And we have an event. We have 3 events left this month. And one of them is partnered with BAC. Happy Black History Month. The one that's partnered with BAC is on the 23rd, and it's a conversation with one of the professors in the Ethnic Studies department on campus. It's called Racializing Haiti, Race, Class, and International Migration. And it's on the 23rd from 12 to 1:30. So if you have a little space in your day, you want to hop in, it's expected to be super nice. And then tomorrow we have a Central and South American and Caribbean meetup. So if you identify with any of like those communities, please show up. It is tomorrow at 4 to 5 in El Centro. And we have lunch with Latinx leaders also on the 24th. And you get free lunch if you are interested in going, and you get to see me. So that's all I have. Let's wrap this up, y'all.
Are there any other senator or associate senator reports? Senator Trout.
Hi, y'all. As usual with my reports, I'm going to talk about some events that are going on at the UCA. So on the 20th, we have a trombone quartet. As on Sunday, to my understanding, those tickets are off. So sorry, just saw that. The CSU Wind Symphony will be doing their first choir. You can either live stream tickets or get in-person tickets, and that's going to be on February 22nd at 7:30. And for most of these events, they're going to be at 7:30 p.m. That's the standard, unless stated otherwise. We have Stanley Curtis, who is a trumpet, who will be performing on Thursday, February 24th, and the theater department will be performing She Kills Monsters. Personally, I love it. I did this in high school, and I love this show with every bone in my body. I believe it's the one that Charlie is performing in, to my understanding. So go support them. It's an amazing show, I promise. Those dates are going to be February 25th and 26th. And for the February 27th performance, which is a Sunday, that'll be at 2 p.m. Those are just in-person tickets, no live streaming, unfortunately, but there's that. And then that's all I got for right now. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about that, or want to get involved, please, come message me, come talk to me, whatnot. And that's all I have. I yield.
Are there any other senator or associate senator reports? Senator Silverheart.
Hello, everybody. Alex Silverheart, he, him, his. I'll try and keep this short and sweet. Last Friday, I invited Cruz to come to the Foundry and give out condom roses. It was a really cute event. It was right before Valentine's Day, so super applicable. On that same note, that same Friday, I had a meeting that morning with 2 members of the Health Network to talk more about sexual education on campus. So something I will be working on is coming up with a survey to see student interest in sexual health education, because from what they told me, the question isn't whether or not students are educated, it's whether they're open to being educated. So if you're interested in helping out with this project, I think it would be pretty fantastic. Something else that I'm interested in doing along with that would hopefully get some Senate money from that for, now I'm tripping on my words. Anyways, the Get Yourself Tested campaign every spring allows students to pay only $20 to get tested for chlamydia and gonorrhea. It is to my knowledge that they are trying to raise that price right now. So if we could help with some of our Senate funds to make sure that they don't raise that price. And through giving some of our Senate funds, giving some of our Senate funds to that cause, it would show that us as a student body are interested in learning more about sexual health education, making sure we are being proactive. As an important organization on campus, it would be a lot, would show a lot, and hopefully move us forward with getting more funding in the future for things like that. So if you're interested in helping out, please reach out. Expect a resolution and hopefully followed by a bill within the next few weeks. Thank you so much.
Are there any other senator, associate senator reports? Senator Sandoval.
So this is kind of talking about the event that Speaker Pro Tempore Baum was talking about. We are working on a Stress Busters event that is going to be held the week before finals week, because as we all know, that's a really stressful week. Many of us are running around like chickens with our head cut off, trying to make sure that we do well on our finals and studying and whatnot. So we're trying to make this a fun week. We have reached out to many different people around the community. So like therapy dogs with the Larimer County Humane Society, massage therapy through the rec center, Calm Strips, which is a small business that is like these kind of sensory strips that are different textures. We reached out to a few different food people like Verb Energy Bars. We're hoping to have food and drinks there, as well as different tables with services on campus. And we're working with pretty much all of ASCSU, so like the different directors and the president and whatnot. So if y'all are interested in that, let me know, let Brandon know, and we'll be happy to include you on that project. Thank you.
Are there any more senator or associate senator reports? Seeing none, we'll move into announcements. Are there any announcements? Chair Morgan.
Hi everyone. Well, I'm in College of Ag, so not related to my position. But in honor of Black History Month, the College of Ag will host Dr. George June on February 24th, which is next Thursday, from 4 to 6 in the LSE Theater. And Dr. June will share a powerful presentation about Deerfield, Colorado, an early 20th century African-American ag settlement that practiced dryland farming with a guest speaker. And also there'll be a guest performance after by the band Valerie Peaches Embry and the Rhythm Train, and there'll also be light snacks there. So if you're free next Thursday, just feel free to stop by. And if you need more information, just come ask me. Thanks.
Are there any more announcements? Seeing none, I'm going to move to skip the fight song for this meeting.
Second.
All for?
Aye.
All against?
Nay.
The ayes have it. We will do ending roll call. Will the clerk please call the roll? I will move to use the roll call from the beginning of this meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
All for?
Aye.
All against? The ayes have it. We will now adjourn. Hey, you too. It's 8:40. It's 8:40.
That was fantastic.
Thank you.
I'm really proud of you.
11 and 10.